everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Adventures in Machine Learning. This week, I'm your host, Charles Max Wood, and I am here with the author of Learning TensorFlow.js, the one and only amazing, illustrious Gant Laborde. Gant!
Woo! It's Gant Laborde, and I'm here! Welcome, young ones.
I love it.
Weird.
So am I. Yeah, I'm waiting for people to be like, oh, he got some big name author. Oh, yeah, it's just Gant again.
Yeah, that's it. Hey, everybody, too bad. You have more really bad puns and crazy internet memes coming your way. Sorry.
Yeah, well, it's been a few months. Do you want to fill people in on what you've been up to?
Oh, my goodness. Let's see.
Did you work your tail off to get that senior developer gig just to realize that senior dev doesn't actually mean dream job? I've been there too. My first senior developer job was at a place where all of our triumphs were the bosses and all the failures were ours. The second one was a great place to continue to learn and grow, only for it to go under due to poor management. And now I get job offers from great places to work all the time. Not only that, but the last job interview I actually sat in was a discussion about how much my podcast had helped the people interviewing me. If you're looking for a way to get into your dream job, then join our Dev Heroes Accelerator. Not only will we help you get the kind of exposure that makes you attractive to your dream employer, but you'll be able to ask them for top dollar as well. Check it out at devheroesaccelerator.com.
Company's been doing fantastic. Infinite Red's just doing wonderful in the React Native space. We host the React Native conference. We do React Native radio now, and then we also do the React Native newsletter. We've been breaking into AI. It's been fantastic as well.
Right.
I've just released a book called Learning TensorFlow.js, which is published with O'Reilly. I am machine learning Google developer expert, as well as a web Google developer expert. Also part of the Oracle Groundbreakers program, the Amazon Community Builders program, also part of the Media Developer Expert program. So networking and interacting and building cool things is the name of the game. And our team is growing as well. So for the first time in forever, we started hiring. And that was awesome. So we're bringing in right now, since we are overflowing on React Native work, we are bringing in React Native devs at careers.infinite.red. So life's been, so much better after 2020.
Good to hear.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. 2021 got off to a little bit of a rocky start in a couple of places, but it looks like a lot of it's kind of dying down and we can get back to sort of normal.
The way I kind of mention it is like, you're gonna feel pain doing some of the things that are good for you. And I feel like settling the sort of, especially here in the US, settling a lot of I've never seen people so angry at their neighbor as I have in 2020.
Oh man.
And there's going to be a lot of tears when people are kind of like having hard conversations. And I think that that's what we saw at the beginning of 2021. People are actually communicating a little bit more. I opened Facebook and actually talked to people instead of yell at them. It's getting there. But I don't want to yell at them. I went to high school with them. We could say hi to each other. Civil. We could be nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've gotten yelled at for posting my opinion on some things on Facebook.
Of course.
By people that I've known for 30 years. I'm just like, really?
Well, Facebook is, just talk for a second here about the anonymization and the dehumanization of technology was exacerbated in 2020 because everybody became this remote screen name, which, as we all know, anonymous screen names post the most disgusting and terrible stuff on like insulting people. And you always have someone who creates a username just to show up and troll or attack.
Right.
And what that did in 2020 is it turned all of us into that sort of like vestige of a human being for a while. And it let people sort of like, I guess, get rid of their humanity. And I think it's good that people are coming back to it.
Yeah. Yeah, there are definitely some relationships that I've been reaching out to rekindle. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of it I had to swallow my pride on too, but it's just the way it goes. So
Yep, that's how growth feels, right?
Yep.
There's a book
So,
I'm reading right now called Anti-Fragile. I wish I'd read it in 2020. Maybe that'll be my show's pick, and I come back to it. But it's about how hard times make stronger people. It's a little bit more involved than that, but I wish I'd read that in 2020. I would have felt a lot better.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. Well, we should probably talk about TensorFlow, and we can talk a little bit more about this during the
Let's
picks,
talk about the robots, man.
Yeah, absolutely. our new robot overlords. That's what came to my head when you said it, so I said it.
Yeah. I for one, welcome them. Just when they're
podcasting by the seat of my pants, folks.
When they show up, they'll be like, who was against us? I'll be like, nah, what's up, guys? Hey, robots.
Yeah, they're going to look at me and go, he wasn't against us, but he wouldn't shut up.
That means you gave them data. They'll appreciate it.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, their sample size on me will be exceptionally large.
That's right.
So let's get into this book. So you wrote this book on TensorFlow.js, learning TensorFlow.js. It's
yes,
out by O'Reilly Media. It looks like it's not yet completely released. You can get an early release copy, right?
No. Here's the thing. You write a book, and then they go back and they correct all your spelling mistakes. I don't know why. We don't care about that. And then they punch up your diagrams. Like my stick men that I drew weren't perfect. They hire some kind of illustrator to come back and draw real stuff where I tried. So they've been doing that. It's in quality check 2 right now. So it should be out anytime, probably by the time this podcast is out.
Good deal. Yeah, it says July 2021 on O'Reilly's website.
Oh, yeah. Under promise, over deliver.
That's right. Yeah, so it'll show up tomorrow. Anyway.
Probably.
So anyway, so I'm looking at this, and I know that some folks who are listening to the show are going to go, okay, TensorFlow.js, like why JavaScript?
Yeah.
Why TensorFlow that way?
For sure. So if you're an advanced, this has 2 major audiences. If you are like brand new to AI, but you've been doing websites for a while, this book is for you. If you are a AI expert and you're like, hold up, I could be putting this stuff into the web pages way better and get way better inference time and get all this cool benefits of not having round trip to the server. This book is for you as well. We've tested it on 2 different groups, and both of them scored very highly. So I'm very happy to say, if you've been in the web world for a while and you're like, hey, I don't know what this stuff is, good book. But also at the same time, if you've never moved a model, like a machine learning model, to the client to get like real-time access to the webcam and immediate feedback and all that other stuff, and you want to learn how, what the differences are and how to actually write the JavaScript around stuff like that, then this is a fantastic book for you. And then that's honestly the big benefit to TensorFlow.js versus traditional TensorFlow, is that the models can go to the edge. You can put them on phones in their TensorFlow.js form, and then you can put them in a browser. You can put them on IoT. You can put them on Raspberry Pis. It's just JavaScript. So it goes everywhere JavaScript goes.
Right. That makes sense. I'm wondering then if somebody has a model that they've built in just regular TensorFlow or something like that. Does it transfer? Like, can I use the same model in both places?
Chapter 7, we take the classic MNIST model and we convert it over to TensorFlow.js. So you get yourself one that's been trained in TensorFlow, and then you say, I would like this to be in TensorFlow.js now. You run the command, and then it's in TensorFlow.js. So I show you all the gotchas and stuff like that. Now, the classic one like MNIST doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles, so it's kind of easy to convert over. But I will warn this, TensorFlow.js is a subset of TensorFlow, and therefore you do always run the risk of like that greatest awesome brand new feature that showed up in TensorFlow might not be in TensorFlow.js. So if you're cutting edge on what's coming out in the framework, then you might have a conversion problem. But they're always fighting for parity between the two.
Right. Well, that's good to know.
Because
Yeah, I'm sure I would have
amazing.
stumbled over that.
Yeah, you find a really cool model, but what's great about it is it feels like there's going to be this huge cost coming your way, right? And that what I just mentioned is the biggest part of the cost there. One of the great things that you can have here is, when you move stuff to the browser or Node backend or stuff like that, you're like, oh, well, I just lost speed. You might have gained speed, believe it or not. Node has outperformed Python in a few situations. Don't forget, you still have access to the GPU. And then you also get this sort of like uniformity across if you decide to use WebAssembly as your backend. I'm starting to see WebAssembly with threads reach speeds parallel to that of people having a GPU. So it's pretty impressive what you can actually get running these models directly inside of the clients on each machine, either in Node.js as a small server or in the browser or such. It intelligently chooses the best backend it can, but they're coming out with new backends all the time. It uses WebGL to access the GPU, but now they're doing another one called WebGPU that seems to be even faster, and that's in beta. And so it looks like, I don't want to write a lick of GPU code. I know somebody who did, and he's okay now, folks. He's okay, but I don't have to worry about all that stuff or write any WebAssembly. I just write JavaScript,
right,
and then it figures it out for me.
Oh, good old WebAssembly.
Yeah.
All the promise and none of the delivery.
Right. It's still constantly in flux, right? And let that be Google's problem. That's what I say.
I hear you.
Let that be Google's problem. A decree upon the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So what is the process that you walk people through then? Especially if you've got kind of two groups that are coming into this, right? Because I would imagine that the machine learning experts coming in are going to have different concerns than the JavaScript or web experts coming in, right?
Very different. The sort of functionality here is exposure to what's going on. So what you kind of learn in chapter 1 is the classic chapter 1. It's like how to use this book and a little bit of motivation. Now, if you're like me, you almost skip chapter 1 in every book. But if you're a chapter 1 reader, I did the best I can to give you the most motivating angle of what's going on and then explain the code for the book. You have it all, and here's how it's organized, and here's what's going on, and here's how you can kind of go forward. So I would recommend don't skip my chapter 1, but that's fine. Chapter 2, I get something working immediately, and I think that this is important for both classes. Right? You take a toxicity detector model, and a toxicity detector detects how toxic a particular phrase is. So if I were to say an insult, which actually, as long as I use a word that's like a cuss word, it's kind of easy. But you could say hell yeah, and it means a good thing, or go to hell means something different. So it does depend on the words, but it depends on the context of the words. Well, we do a really, really hard to detect insult in the book. And, as a human being, you go, that's definitely an insult. But for AI, you could see how would it be able to do this? If I were to code this, how would I be able to detect this as an insult? And then we pull down an already working package on toxicity. We run the sentence through that. And then it gives us the results of what it sees in that sentence. And you can see that it barely, it's hard, but it detects that it's an insult. And it goes, okay, here you go. This is an insult, and here's the results. So when you're brand new to this, you go, wow, I can take any sentence now. I could take all of my Twitter, and then I could get a toxicity score. Or I could take somebody that we're about to hire and get a toxicity score. Or I can put a filter up at a chat for our conference.
Right.
Be oh, hey, this is getting flagged because it's got a high toxicity score. Are you sure you want to do it? Sort of like Nextdoor does with their posts, right? And so you could put that in tomorrow. And as a web developer, you're cool. As an experienced programmer, who's done Python and has seen like advanced models before, you're like, excellent. I just saw you pull in JavaScript a advanced model, and I see the structure of the data as it comes out, and I can kind of now I've used something immediately. So that's in chapter 2.
Right.
You've got somebody who's never done JavaScript before delivering this sort of like protocol, and in chapter 2, a person who's never done AI before gets an AI result. So they both win in that sort of thing, and it kind of works that way. Now, every so often, there's going to be a chapter where one person's going to be a little bit more inundated with new information versus another. But for the most part, I keep both of these audiences interactive.
I like it.
Yeah.
So just by showing them how to implement the AI expert gets the JavaScript experience, and the JavaScript expert gets the AI experience.
Staying as pragmatic as possible gives all the sort of like real world feels. Because, in chapter 6, here's the thing: you could be good at JavaScript and honestly not know anything about how to render to a canvas. Like maybe you just never rendered to a canvas before. Well, then honestly, you're on the same side as the data scientist who's never worked with HTML canvases before. And so you could get a whole bunch of benefit there. Now, if you know a ton about HTML canvases, then you, in chapter 6, you're learning about a brand new model that I haven't covered before. I made sure that I don't recover the same kind of thing. So that way it's like, oh, okay, well, at least, hey, I'm a master at canvases, but I'm learning about a brand new AI model this time. And so I iterate in each chapter to get something new for each audience. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So what kinds of examples or what kinds of algorithms, models, patterns are people going to be implementing?
Mostly visual. I found that people respond very well to visual machine learning examples. There's some sort of tactile visual connectivity that comes across this. With audio in a book would have been way hard. And the text that I do, I actually limit that to chapters 2 and 3. In chapters 2, we do the toxicity. In chapter 3, we actually do a recommendation engine. And that's the end of where I kind of leave things inside of text, because I feel that it's just so much more tangible that we're going to find cute pet faces and we're going to put a box around a cute dog's face. It's just this, it's like, what would Twitter-driven development, right?
Right.
I've got a picture of a cute dog alongside the lesson. It's way better.
Yeah, I could see that. My my 5-year-old would love that. Little puppies. She's way into animals, so yeah.
It's to me, I know that, well, probably AI experts will be like, oh, this book never covered this, it never covered that, it never covered this, it never covered that. But the truth is, I can't make a 1,000-page book. O'Reilly actually specifically would not let me make this book any larger than it already is. They said, your goal is 300 pages. Anything beyond that, we're going to cut the book. We're going to cut pieces. And I was like, well, I'm not going to overwrite.
Yeah.
But the truth is, you have to choose one of the major categories of application of AI to lean into that everybody can follow.
Right.
And that meant that I had to choose one avenue, which was a little bit of text in the beginning, because text is nice and simple. It gets more complicated later on, but then we'll go into visual. And then you got your fingers on it, right?
Right.
If you finish the book, there's nothing stopping you from going and applying that same knowledge to text and other aspects of AI that are out there that you might need. If you're like, oh, I want to generate new anime characters. Well, you've got to learn generative adversarial networks or different kinds of, you have to learn all the different GANs out there. But all the knowledge that you got from the book immediately applies. Like, oh, okay, well, I already know how to load the model, handle the tensors, merge the data, clean it up, do all the things I need to do, because that's what the 12 chapters of the book kind of taught me. I think it's a good jumping off point for whatever kind of crazy project people want to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Nice.
So what have you, I'm going to pivot this a little bit. What have you built with TensorFlow.js?
So many things. Let's see. I built back in 2018 a mobile app and a website to identify whether a person was Nicolas Cage or not. I still have the website up.
That's important.
It was super important. It was hilarious. We had
changed the world.
We had in the audience for the talk, I had a friend wearing a Nicolas Cage mask. And so we used the app to find him in the audience.
Oh, nice.
It was fun. And then I've always had this weird want to sort of like watch the machine learn and then see how smart it is at each level. The problem is like there's thousands upon thousands of iterations usually to watch it like learn. So I chose the simplest problem possible. I chose tic-tac-toe, which tic-tac-toe you can solve. I mean, it's a solved problem altogether, and there's plenty of ways that you can actually do it. But what I decided to do, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to give it the game data and like have it do that. So we actually, some of the results that go into the book, but I made a website called TensorFlow.tictacttoe.co. And then you're like, hey, Gant, why didn't you buy the .com? The truth is it rhymes now. TensorFlow.tictacttoe.co. So I bought the .co. And you can actually watch the AI learn. So you play a game and then you tell it, hey, learn how to play like I did when I played player X. Learn how to play like I did when I played player O and the other things. And then each time you train it, it gets, it plays more like that player and won't make those mistakes that it would normally make. And you can actually watch it learn. And you could teach it how to be a pretty unbeatable AI if you give it 5 or 6 amazing game examples.
Nice. That sounds fun.
Yeah. There's a video on the website. So if you go to TensorFlow.tictacttoe.co, it's hard for me not to sing it. But if you click on the bottom left, I put a little video there explaining what the hell that website's doing. And it's a lot of fun. And so that's in JavaScript. I did this really cool Amplify thing where you could see your audience's reactions while you're giving your talk in a virtual conference. That one did really well. It's called Enjoying the .show.
Oh, I think you talked about that before.
Probably. I did a talk on TensorFlow YouTube channel about it. And I also did a talk on Amplify Days about it. It was really good. Yeah. To be honest, man, it's really easy to come up with cool applications of this stuff. I have a document in my Google Drive called Really Awesome Machine Learning Ideas. And it's got 19 ideas in there, and I've like implemented 5. It's so much fun. Yeah, it's good. The book helped out a bit too. So I do have some of the examples from the book. I went ahead and fleshed out into full-on websites as well. So it's pretty fun.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Hey, folks, if you love this podcast and would like to support the show, or if you wish you could listen without the sponsorship messages, then you're in luck. We're setting up new premium podcast feeds where you can get all of the episodes released after Christmas 2020 without the ads. Signing up will help us pay for editing and production, and you can go sign up at devchat.tv/premium.
So now that you have a book written and you're bona fide expert, what are you doing now? What are you working on these days?
So we are, like I said, we've been having a lot of. I'm very happy to say we've done okay during the pandemic, and we have a lot of like pretty big name companies coming to us as a company for AI and React Native work. So one of the things that I'm focused on is helping us with our growth there, and also trying to onboard our own team into sort of like learning a bit more about AI stuff. And I've had quite a few people reach out like, hey, can you come teach us this? And you come teach us that? And the truth is, I'd say like if 8 more people come out and request like on-site training, I'm going to have to create a damn course. I'm going to have to create another online course, which is not a bad thing.
Yep. Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'd love to see another course from you. Your first course was awesome. So
thanks so much. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to do courses. By the way, it is. It's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding when you have an online course.
Yeah, I'm working on one of my own, but it's a paid. Yeah. It's interesting going through the process because, like I have people working through it, and then kind of as I go. Yeah, that's kind of where I actually get to see, okay, this is working, this isn't working.
Yeah, so having people test it's so important. And if you're ever stuck, if anybody out there is ever stuck creating educational content, just watch somebody consume the content that you have and listen to their questions. That will, so for instance, I had somebody reading the book and it did the same thing it did for the course. When they come back with their questions, I was like, wow, you just gave me 3 more chapters that have to exist in this. And I know everything that's in those chapters. It's a matter of me sitting down and taking it out of my head and putting it in this format for you. So teaching very much, we depend heavily on the student. Otherwise, you're just some schmuck standing up in front of nothing and talking. And get so much from good questions.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, is there anything else you want to dive into with this book? I guess it's on Amazon.
Yeah. What I'll say is this, you probably, it's so many different applications that could be applied. I feel like the world of products out there is sort of like my document where I've got 19 ideas and I've implemented 4 or 5. I feel like every time I touch a product, somebody comes along and says, okay, this is what we have. I was like, do you have a recommendation engine in there? No. Do you have like content checking in any sense? No. Are you collecting the data so that later on you could like create an algorithm to do these things? No. It's like, all right. The one thing I'd say is like start thinking, if you're already in data science or any of those things, you already know this story. Someone shows up to you with a great idea and no data. And you're like, I can't create anything for you. Like the one thing I can do is start creating how you should start gathering it. So what I say is like, there's so many great ideas out there. Know what the ideas are and start gathering the information. And then I'm expecting to see TensorFlow.js in websites everywhere. Like it's already, for instance, when I'm writing my emails get finished for me. I hit tab and I say, that's what I was going to say. Sure. And nice. Then I have it, kind of like in a bunch of different places all over. So I'm starting to see it more and more places. And I think that we're all, the sooner you see it, the sooner you think about it in products, the better off we all are.
Nice. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with. And I think we're going to see this pop up in more and more places. We're already seeing some of the predictive stuff in like Gmail and things like that. So I think it's just a matter of time.
Well, I think that we're seeing some pretty fun creations happened last year. I'm going to give a shout out to Jason Mays, who runs the TensorFlow.js advocacy at Google. Mm-hmm. And what he does is he's got this hashtag on Twitter called MadeWithTFJS. And that's a golden hashtag right there. You want to watch that one because the crazy creations that people make, they come back and they put hashtag MadeWithTFJS on there. And if you scroll through that, you can see some pretty impressive stuff.
Cool. I'll have to go check it out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and do some picks. I guess before we do that, I always ask the guests where people can connect with them online. So I know you're out there on Twitter and stuff. Yeah. Yes. Where do you want people to connect with you?
Well, I am Gant Laborde, and so you can find me at Gant Laborde on Twitter. And as of this recording, my SSL certificate on gantlaborde.com is expired, and Let's Encrypt won't let me get a new one for a few days for some reason. So if you go to GantLaborde.com, you may or may not get to see all my speaking engagements, places to follow me and check out cool stuff. You can see all the stuff that's coming up. I still update the website, even though the SSL certificates, for some reason, being very, very angry. But yeah, just look at Gant Laborde, Twitter, and on GantLaborde.com.
Awesome.
Hey, folks, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been working a lot on figuring out how to help people become the most valuable developers on their teams or becoming the top 5% of developers in the field. If you're looking to level up, figure out how to contribute more, get the career you want, get the career that you want that will support the lifestyle you want, then you should check out the Most Valuable Dev Summit. I've invited some of my friends across the community, people that you've heard of, people that have worked on systems that you use on a daily basis, people who have invented new ways of doing things over the years in programming, and I've asked them one question, and that question is, how do you become a top 5% developer? How do you become 1 in 20 of the best developers out there? And so we're going to go ahead and have that conversation with them in interviews on the Most Valuable Dev Summit. And you can find that at summit.mostvaluable.dev.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and do some picks. I'm curious to see what you come up with this time around. I'm going to throw out a few picks here. The first pick I have, so this weekend I got away with a bunch of guys that I pretty much talk about everything with, and they do the same with me and with each other. And yeah, there were a bunch of things that came out of that. One of them was just that, and it kind of like hit me in the face like a ton of bricks, was just how much relationships matter. I mean, we were talking about this before the show, but
That's
kind
true.
of the theme of the get together, because there were 150 of us there. My small group, which is the group of guys that I talk to all the time, there are 10 of us. And I think 8 of us were actually at the event. But yeah, just the real power behind relationships and what that really means going through, and that's what inspired me to reach out to folks. Is I was like, I don't have a good relationship with this person, and I wish I did, right?
Yeah.
And some stuff that they did, some stuff that I did, some stuff that's just stupid. But in the end, it doesn't matter, right? And so, yeah, it was funny. I actually got off the airplane, took the light rail down to the commuter train, and then I took the commuter train most of the way home. But while I was sitting in the station for the commuter train, because I think I had like a 45-minute wait for the commuter train, I just called up a bunch of people that I hadn't talked to in a while.
Nice.
One of them had chewed me out for stuff that wasn't my fault. And one of them had chewed me out for stuff that was my fault. And, one of them I just hadn't talked to in a while. And I just called them up. Hey, how's it going? Right. And just had a good talk and just kind of gained back some of that humanity between us. Right.
Yeah.
And anyway, so it was really, really powerful. So, and I've put out a couple of podcast episodes, bonus episodes on this feed, among others, but relationships really matter.
Oh, yeah.
And so if there's somebody who you cut ties with over something stupid, and politics is a stupid reason to cut ties with people, because I've seen a lot of that and I don't understand it, right? It's like, I have people that I don't agree with politically, and it's like, look, if you want to talk about it and we can maintain our relationship, great. If we can't talk about it with that, still maintain our relationship, let's talk about other stuff, right?
Yeah, just to chime in on that, what I think ends up happening is that people feel that other people don't care because of what their politics are. And inevitably, you pull them off the internet, you put them in a room, you put them next to each other. They do care. They do care. It's just, it probably is not even close to what you think that person really cares about, or what because like it winds up being that you're like, look, how can you be on podium X when I see it from this direction and this is what podium X says? And inevitably, if you sit down and you kind of open it up, you find out that person's really, really, they need to have that conversation. That conversation's healthy for everybody to have it directly. But to assume that because it goes through a third party, I think back channeling and chatting and indirect communication is a toxicity of 2020. It's this non-high bandwidth version of reading one another. And you need, before you dismiss somebody, you need to have a real conversation with them to know that that's what they really think, not to assume it.
Right. Yeah, to put it a slightly different way, I've seen people that have basically, they've painted the Democrats as one thing or the Republicans as another thing.
Oh, yeah.
And they see somebody vote that way. And they're like, well, then you must agree with, this flawed premise or this horrible idea, right?
I'm a reality to so many people,
Yeah, and the reality is that they don't see any of that, right?
Yeah.
Or they understand that some people see it that way, but since they don't see it that way, they decide to vote that way anyway, right? Because ultimately, that party or this party on whatever issues matter to them or whatever values matter to them seem to align better with them, right? And so it has nothing to do with the other ideas that you're putting out there that you're ascribing to that group. They're voting on one issue or two issues or a certain set of values that have nothing to do with those things. And so by ascribing those attributes that you don't like from the party to the person, you're giving them, I guess, a black eye that they don't deserve. Because at the end of the day, right, they're not voting for so-and-so because they believe something abhorrent. It's just, their perspective tells them that this other thing is more important or that point of view is flawed in some way or something like that.
So hard. It's so hard to fix that incongruity between people using politics.
Yep.
The real thing that works there is for a person to say, this affects my life. Why does that not matter to you? And the other person say, that matters to me. Then they can have a real conversation.
Right.
But keeping politics in the middle of it and going through a third party, that kills kills this sort of like what's really necessary, because the truth is, dare I say, like, it adds a fourth aspect to what actually should be a trinity. And the trinity should be the topic and the two people.
Right.
Not the whole political platform of all concepts ever, then the pieces that each person is seeing.
Right.
Yeah.
And the interpretation that we give to the rhetoric of one politician or one group of politicians, as opposed to, again, the topic or the idea. Yeah. And having a conversation about that. I agree.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's we went way off on a tangent, but relationships matter.
It's the destruction of Facebook 2020, like, basically there.
Yeah. So I do want to get a little bit more concrete on this. So one of the things that I've been doing, and this is something that came up at this event, is somebody said, look, you got to take all of the people, right, that you have a relationship with and put them all in one place. So essentially you have a CRM. And then you prioritize the people that you want to have the relationships with, and then make sure that you're following up with them and checking in on them and having those kinds of relationships, right? And I was thinking, you know what? That sounds a little bit cold for relationships, but then I was like, but it's very deliberate, right? Because then it's because I get busy, right? And then I'm like, I forgot to check in on my friend Gant. I haven't talked to him in months, right? And that sucks because I like you, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's not so much that it's like, oh, wow, I've got this cold process so that I can systematically check in and go, hey, what can you do for me? Right. Instead, it's a system for me to go, oh, it's been a month. I haven't talked to Gant. I should reach out and see how he's doing, right? Check in on him, check in on his family, see how things are going at Infinite Red, see if there's anything I can do to help, right? Because that's what I want. And so for me, it's just this little tickler that's going, hey, it's been a minute. You haven't talked to him. What's going on, right? And I have people in my life. I mean, I don't even talk to my mom every week, right? Which I'm embarrassed to admit. And so I'm putting that in there, right? Call mom, right? I have 9 brothers and sisters. If I don't see them this week, I'm going to give them a call, right? And it's just stuff like that where it's like, oh yeah, just being a little bit more deliberate about it means that I can have the kind of relationship I want with them. And so I'm using a CRM and doing that.
Nice. And let me just say, like, I know you said it can sound cold, but it's making a decision, and making a decision sets a boundary, and setting a boundary makes what happens.
Yep.
So the truth is, whatever habits you have, without you making that decision and setting the boundaries and setting up a structure that does it, you're just going to keep doing what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't like what you're doing, you can't change it. And so if it's a CRM, personal note, if it's an email that you send yourself, or a Slack reminder, if you want to be more connected, all those are just mechanisms to you building the habits and stopping the flow of things from things that weren't your decisions that took your time.
Yeah.
Now you've made a decision on what you spend your time on. That's not cold, man. That's setting boundaries like a boss.
Yep. And that's how I feel about it. So I'm going to throw out the tool. This is a long
Nice.
way to get to picking this tool. And I have to say, I've tried like every CRM under the sun and they all suck.
Yeah.
Okay. So just be aware. Okay. Most of them are geared towards sales. And I think that's the major problem, is that most of the relationships that I'm working on are not sales relationships, and they don't go through that same process. Yeah. And then even then, the ones that are geared towards sales, they still suck at it, because it's like email and phone. Well, what if I want to tweet to them or text them or something else, right? Anyway, so I'm just putting that out there too. So the tool that I'm using, and we've been using this, we're going to start managing all of the podcast workflow through it too. I actually hired a workflow expert to help me with this. It is Monday.com, but they have a template in there for a CRM. And so I took that and then I just mutilated it, right, and turned it into what I wanted. And it has been so nice, because it's like, okay, this is the stuff I care about. So I have like people's phone numbers and emails and Twitters and LinkedIn's and everything in there, right? And so then it just, like I set them to monthly, weekly, or whatever. And then it turns around and it says, okay, so every Monday, hey, these are the people you got to get a hold of this week, right? Yeah. And then I just make sure I reach out to a couple of them every day. And just by being able to do that, I'm doing a whole lot better at this. And so, so like I said, I just use the CRM template and it's been nice. I am using it for sales too, by the way. So it works fine for that as well. The only thing that I really have a little bit of an issue with is it is a little bit wonky in doing the reminder to check in on people, because I have to create a new task. Anyway. So it's interesting, and I'm trying to find the best way to kind of show me my list of people I need to check in on for sales and for personal relationships. But yeah, I'm really digging it. So anyway, that's long-winded, awesome. But there you go.
That's a good call. And hey, the fact that you found a niche that's semi-served through Monday.com, maybe anybody out there who's listening, who's interacting with someone who's in a cohort that's looking for their finale project or something like that, maybe building a basic CRM that's not sales driven, but networking driven wouldn't be such a bad plan. It'd be great for their career and also great for the cohort.
Yep. Yep. All right. What are your picks?
I'm going to go, you know what? I already talked about Made with TFGS hashtag, which is great. And I also talked about the wonderful book, Anti-Fragile. And I think I'm going to just take a second to talk about that being my pick. I think it's a good pick for today, because Anti-Fragile is a concept that does not get taught or learned. We learn about being robust, and that means being the strong person who weathers the storm, and you're beaten down but you win, right? Anti-Fragile's a way of looking at the world, welcoming the storm and ending up stronger because it has passed through you. It reminds me of like Dune, I shall let the fear pass through me and only I shall remain. Like it's such a motivational book to beat the hell out of hard times. Yeah. And like I said, I wish I'd given it to myself in 2020, but it was recommended to me at the end of 2020. And the concepts in this book are, if I need to go be creative and do a lot of good stuff, I read The War of Art. That book gets me motivated there.
So good.
This one is like the motivation to see a problem and go charging into it. Like this is solving things makes you a strong person. and makes you actually better. And when you're not solving things, you're actually getting weaker, and you're not extreme amounts of time of like protecting yourself from stuff just makes it worse when hard times actually come in. So I love I've always kind of heard about this sort of mentality of anti-fragility. And this book is like a manifesto of teaching it, letting you see it, and actually understanding it. And I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm about 75% through the book, and I was doing the audio. I bought the hardcover so I can go back and highlight sections.
Right.
It's one of those.
It's been sitting in my Audible account for an embarrassingly long time. I was like, I'm gonna go get it, and then I'm like, oh, it's in there. It's been in there for a long time.
I recommend if you have something difficult coming up, charge yourself with this book and watch as you any kind of fear or reticence to take on the hard thing starts to just drift away and turns you into a different person. And I'm probably going to read this every 10 years.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, yeah, having gone through some hard times and kind of figured out some of the things you're talking about with, oh yeah, that would have been good. But I like the idea too of just the constant improvement, right? So you're not, because what happens is a lot of people, they kind of harden themselves, right?
Yeah.
But by hardening themselves, the problem with hardening yourself is that eventually something's going to come hit you hard enough to crack you.
Exactly. He's got this analogy in, I think, like chapter 3 or something like that, talking about and I see this in organizations all the time. The mechanical that we set up gets damaged over time. So we set up more mechanics, and we have to replace those. We have this replaceable mechanic system. And he's got this. Instead of that, the organic structure doesn't just like get placed and then put to rest. The organic structure is constantly improving, is constantly growing stronger by each test that comes along. The muscles build back stronger, and the sort of like the power of the unit gets better. And I see that with organic and mechanic structures in companies. Some places are just a set of rules, and when something screws up, they just make another rule and another rule and another rule until they're like constricted by all these mechanics that make, large organizations completely exhausting. And then I
work in one of those large organizations.
Or like, hey, I'd like to go to this conference. All right, is it 6 months out? Because you've got paperwork to fill, or something like that. Yeah. I can't stand that. It's a way better, especially if like you're a startup kind of person or an avid learner or a builder. This really speaks to what you kind of know innately.
Yep, makes sense. Oh, now I have another book to go listen to. I'm going to throw one more book out there that's less heavy.
You have to get through your books, man.
I know, right? I have so many books on Audible that I've bought that I haven't listened to. The last one that I listened to actually is a little bit more practical. It's the sales development playbook, and it's actually on how to build the sales team and how to hire like people to do your pre-sales work. Mm-hmm. And so, nice. and that's kind of where I'm sitting right now with devchat.tv is, if I have somebody who wants to be part of the Dev Influencers Accelerator, or if I have somebody who is interested in sponsorship or going out and finding and doing the prospecting for sponsorships, right? It turns out that it tells you how to hire somebody to do a lot of the legwork up front, so that I can just turn around and go, okay, here's what we're going to do, right? And so then when I reach out to them, it's not in that weird, so you want to sponsor a show, please, kind of thing, which has actually worked for me very well in the past.
Oh yeah.
But it also talks about like how to do outreach and how to do all that stuff. So anyway, kind of getting away from that, I guess the heavy topic, which I think is important. Yeah, that's the book that I've been listening to right now. So I've got to get through that. Awesome. And then the other prospecting book I'm listening to, and then I'll probably pick that one up because I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, I'd say that this is a tool belt book. You can actually hold on to it for a bit, but you just want to make sure that if you strike with it at the right time, it's going to have the most effect.
Yep. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up. I'm going to remind people one more time to go check out your book. You can get it on learning.o'reilly.com. You can also get it on Amazon, and we'll have links to those in the show notes. And go follow Gant Laborde with an E on Twitter.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
all
indeed.
right.
I promised lots of crazy stuff on there.
Oh, yeah. You always have good stuff. Sometimes you post stuff and it's like, somebody did this with AI. And I'm like, wow, that's cool.
It's I get to be wowed all the time. This is where new stuff is happening, and it's equal parts like wow and oh my, like this is happening now. I'm not ready for this.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up. Thank you for coming, Gant. And folks, until next time, Max out.
Bye.
Bandwidth for this segment is provided by CacheFly, the world's fastest CDN. Deliver your content fast with CacheFly. Visit CACHEFLY.com to learn more.